acts, sudden great acts of virtue, if there's no follow-through, if there's no continuity, will die out and lead to no real benefit. Nevertheless, we experience fluctuations in our own energy level, in how we feel physically and mentally. Sometimes we find ourselves, without much effort, capable of tremendous, even heroic diligence. And other times, we find that our bodies and minds seem to have no strength or energy at all. But even in such times, when we feel enervated, we need to keep going, even if it is simply the recitation of the vow of refuge, or the recitation of 4 lines of supplication. We need to keep going. It is the continuity that is of greater importance than sporadic bursts of heroic effort. As Jangalo Drutai wrote in his Calling to the Gurus from Afar, although I repeatedly generate roots of virtue, I equally repeatedly let them dissipate and die out. It's as though we cultivate a fire of virtue and then allow it to sink into a pool of cold water, putting it out immediately. This is not likely to lead to much benefit. So, regardless of whether our diligence is tremendous or modest, for Dharma to become a path, we need continuity and consistency. Through that consistency, Dharma will become a path. The path will dispel delusion, and delusion will re-arise as wisdom. So with that in mind, please generate bodhicitta and listen to the teachings.
Ta gomba mai gomba on chubai sangore. Hindu kasalang on tane ke yani yang to semju la kamne teni shoba chabar changing around the yongo yori te tam to maze batte ke cherim pen la gomba ina yarong lama gomba ina yon kare gomba ina yon do ka
nam je ngor la la zor wan de za de le nam je ma do zon zen ze me bar wan be ze ba dor je yo na za ja yen re de jen dan ra ra me ba do zen de ra re John the ya zo jun jo zan za zan jian zo dam je bar jian dor je yuan nam ba ro ban den je nam ga ze ba je nam mo den ne zon de zan je nian be ba da yin ro gan gor ve dong ar Tarn de Lama Gonjo Zaza La De Me Don Yo Rabu Jazun De Ne Zon De Zan Jo Nyembu Ba Yin Rogan Gor Tarn de Lama Gonjo Zaza La De Me Don Yo Rabu Jazun San jo nyim ba ba da yin ro gan gor ve dong a le dar de la ma gon jo za za te me dong yo zha bu jia zun ye de ne ga jan ro ve dong ji ze da ge ye da ba ra jin gong ban Ma dan ba yen du yin yin ro gan de wan jo lan gu ba de ne ga jan ro ve don ji ze da ge ya dan ba ra jin gong ba ba da ma dan ba yen du yin yin ro gan de wan jo lan gu ba de ne ga jan ro ve don ji ze da ge ya dan ba ra jin gong ba ma dan ba yen du ye jen ro gan de wan jo la ge ba za gon jo sam la sam za ren ju ba ba me ge de ya ge la ji ye yo ba ra zo de jun go go wa go ge ge me zan je jian bo ngo gon jo sam la sam za ren ju ba ba me ge de ye ra yo ba zo de jun go go wa ge ge me zan je jian bo ngo gon jo sam la sam za ren ju ba me ge de ya ge la ji ra yo ba ra zo de jun go go wa ge ge me zan je jian bo ngon za wong a ba wo jia bia ra bu ya ran de za la jo ye ya wo je ne je ngan ze ba ja ja ba ba do re je de zhe ba ve vu ba la zha je be ne de ye da la je no de na gyar zamba kamar gazan de ge yi ge ji je ron jon ben do lan jan ne be gazan zor ve jar da nyo mon ro sa de ba ra se be je wa nga ye ni la de za ro be ja ma de jo je mar me za zo ju mar jo ga ja yi ge me ra ma se wa de ba wa da de za je do zo da ze ba ra je ja lo ro re je zo do ra me je ze yi ge re do za ne na ba ra jo tam be ze ga sa ga ze re je no yi ge me bong go re ve le nyo se pa re ve do re je ze nge do nga jo ga ran ze za ru de de zon da ta nye re ra pa re ve se za ro de de je bie ma la yin la zo pa re je 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 do je pa ra ra se pa ve ve jin yin go len ze zo je yen go lo jin de ya ga za ro ren ze pa ra do ra do ro ma ma ve je de ga la de ze me de gi ya bie la jin de se ye ja do me be jang ga ro yi ye me den ba ve lon de sal je be yi ye jang je le na de je wa ra hong ga ra da ran je yem ga wa ra na ba ra ja ra dam ne nyen bon ye yin je ye da de de da ba ra be ma wan je do ra je da se da ra da zhen je ra da lon je ma bo yo yo ba ng bo de ra mo yan de wa ra me yo do ra je dong ga ma la ye yin je me da da nye ya la yo ga za nam ja ra su ze ma wa ra do bo je da ju ze yang na zo do jin zhuo da de zhe jie ra ra zan ze ye da pa ra ba yo ne na de je se ra ra ye yo na cha za za ze da da ran zhuo ne nga ge ye pa ba ba a ne sen jo zhuo ve ta za ga da ran zhuo se ra ra hyo na pa ra sa tam je zo zhe le do mi lon da lo yin yu gen ja na la ran ji ma zhe pa me nga zam pa ra nan ja da ra sa ja ra ve sen la ne za hong wa wo re nge wan ga ra ne nga ra zhen jo je je da zhe jiang bong bo nyo mo ga nga re ze me je wa la jin do zo je wo me zo je yen bar ve de zhe na ne pa ra jin bo jin ga ra la zo jin ra ni me yara do da ni bo ji ga la se ba 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 zhe se re ge Soma damje jendo go jezo zarje nu zarado nandra doba lada yigye joge roba da ombe zirkalkalaya. ne ba ombe zer kala kala yan za ba Gyamtso Damje Barjen Dorje Number or one the Namga Zeba Namo and the Nezon de Zanjo Nimbe Bada Yen Rogan Gorve Dongaret Tarande Lama Gonjo Zaza La de Medon Joy Rabu Jazan the Nezon de Zanjo Nimbe Bada Yen Rogan Gorve Dorande Lama Gonjo Zaza La de Medon Joy Rabu Jazan the Nezon de Sanjo Nimba Bada Yin Rogan Gorve Donga Le Darande Lama Gonjo Zaza Teme Donjo Drabu Jabzun Je Denen Gajan Rove Donje Zer yada barajin gombai Madan bayan du yin yin rogan dewan jolan gubar denen gajan rove donji zedage yadan barajin gombai Barada madan bayan du yin yin rogan dewan jolan gubar Denen gajan rove donje
Marabai malai juje gambo ba zaya zaya gamji garma ba je je chon je ju ba zinanda Dada Tarazaya Baradiro Bazo Salaya Saja Jila Ngani Nyamen Rogoe Da Boga Jula Sruvainde Soga Jula Mana Yuban Zinai Nandara Zinjila Shen Long Je Gambara Sombayi Senaragalai Jaye Me Badan Sende Dudai Jube Gom Jila Yingara Jemba Me Barasin Jila Mega Gonjengo Sombayi Menga Dergo Jebela Mala Yunda Zorwa Debegon Jila Yume Mege Dewara Jila Yeme Gomjeng Yezombayi Kanyara Dobe Ngovo Somade Maje de Garan Jobe Gondila Gonzalo da Endawara Zindila Mando Ngovo song ba yi je ya ma yi je ya ja wa la mangaro ba jan be gom ji la horande yerame do bara sen ji la yewa ganda yanda la ma da garame ji ja ba la lo ju jen sa da lam ji yun di ra zo ne lor je jang ge gong ba nye lo yo san je ju da su je jo na la san je bar de da ne ja zen je da ge je zo je be su nan je ro lai bin ze san je de bar yo san je ju da zo je jo nam ja bar de da ne ja zen je da ge jim zo ji be su nam ji ro la ben zer san je de bar yo san je ju da zo je jo nam la san ja bar de da ne ja zen je da ge jim zo ji be su nam ji ro la ben zer san je de bar yo sem je tan ji Deva Dain Deva Jadain Dimbar Jerje Dongar Dan Dongar Jadain Dawar Jerje Dongar Meben Deva Damba Dam Mandrawar Jerje Nyere jada nyindan rava tanya chimbol Nivara je semje tamje deva dain deve jadain dimbara jirje Donghara je jadain ravara je Donga mebe deva damba damandra vara jirje Nyere jada nyindan rava danya jimbola nimbara je semje tam deva dain deva jadai dimbara jirje Donga je dai ravara je Donga mebe deva damba damandra vara je Nyere jada nyindan rav Tanya jimbola nibara je Dadai sunje tamje Lo ju san rovara sunje lamda zo lamda rovara sunje lamda Landramba savara sunje lamda zo Chaba Yeshe zen javara sunje lamda zo Dadai sunje tamje lo chu sa rovara sunje lamda Lambda Doa Sinja Lambda Zara Lantraba Samvara Sinja Lambda Tramba Yeshe Sanjavara Sinja Lambda Zo Dadai Sinja Tam Lojusan Rovara Sinja Lambda Zo Lambda Rovara Sinja Lambda Zo Landra Samvara Sinja Lambda Zo Traba Yeshe Sanjavara Sinja Lambda Zo Horje Yerje Navzan Tam Bimai Gesar Dombola Yamze Jogai Ngadai Nye Bimai Jone Chisan Korandai Gandrai Mambu Kora Jeje Jisa Dadaje Senja Labza Jesa Sa Nem Joan Dere Simpo Jo Dala Vanja Gara Gendai Lande Barje Sa Jo Dai Domai Ngudra Sa Oma Voi Bezangara Bimai Sedewa Oma Voi Bezangara Bimai Dunten Zara Bezara Samayan Zanza Sarava Zinde Bala Hon Ar Mahar Nisaratarya Zidare Zanza Garai Kandru Zuji Najam Bebunam La Lulai Geye Zinjila Alai Zonge Zinjila Yilai Duji Zinjila Vanya Govara Zinjila Yiye Dabara Zinjila Laya Jombara Zinjila Kaya Dobara Zinjila Oma Voi Bedangare Biman Devandai Gini Kaya Abegin Zawo Waka Abegin Zawo Sada Abegin Zawo Sarava Abegin Zawo
Chudan Chujen Nelo Manara Wala Chayin Zinen Chambe Yeshe Doso Yela Gonge Padre Wa Rikbe Dorje Shavlang Chan Sara Panden Save Lama Rinpoche Dage Chevora Pende Denyone Kadin Chembe Gone Jedon Kosong Tukye Ngodo Dado Senja Namba Samala Ngadu Delik Sene Shuya Tang Tene Nangan Tatang Nyamba Semjen Tamje Lana Mepa Yantaba Zob Sanje Ke Komban Tabarcha Tati Chetola Tambe Chu Samashu Nyambe Ke Kono Chanchup Chodo To Jene Sano Nang Satakan Sembarcha Chune Terchen Barway Dorje ke Gumbam Nani, then Ngaran Montune, Shodegi Yobari. Tenete into Kapsula, Tati Gumbam Sinkenta, that Jetang, Kanete Senna, Tenike Gumbam Gerek, or Tenaying, Dongata, Menga Sinkenda, or Tendu Gerek, Dondo Ganga, Tengone, Towon Davote, Sem Juyag Tam Davo. Chod Churban, Davo Chilan Dogo Yore, penata nyamne so kamda wojela cha jana thoda heshin thurwa gomda nyomo meba sinkenda wojita yongo yore te yendu kapsalata heda da wotinde jela pemne thoba hyo chimbo sal tege nane janta yong kapo ngala sopa yang dowan do de ngomba la sopa getene deno tamjela lob yong zo Lota Mango la Kawaje Jane, then Chu Kona, Lobjon Zonkin Dawoji Yena, that dead Dawoki, Chu Lobjon Zonkin Keba Senayaron, Kembo Senayaron, Tato Gata, Kona Tumden Cho to Chuba, Top de Batella, Kade Go Yode Sena, Tota shaking through thinking the massive Kalchimbo secretary. Kade de sena chu sengente ngone tanege yere sanje yomnen dege chu te dowan do de ngomanda wojila ta sosuke lunga ye somge nyom ba tapje dan dor che be taplana me pa de sonare ma do jege tene chu lobjon zolim yendola nyomo chedo ngajar chedo Tado chedo tene tege nane cha ngone tane ke da to yena me bandabu ke to ne te chö sama te kala phu sondabu ngone tane ke tege sosu ke tene lunga ye samge ta khona nyomo bandawa te sol dor ma ta bandabu yolom ganga te ji singbola phu sondabu tende dabo che la jok sonwa yena tene kora kase che he yoba yena yang tene te kora sing dabo te ta pejo tang mela ngomya dabo re ma to che ke thonda dabo te ngone thane ke so so ke lunga ye sam mandar be junten la tene tene tenge nelung dabo te ta thomna na cholo ya ban dabo ne thola song dabo Somanda would hand over yore, that teta of my bacheke. Tubeke ta tela onetanik sosuk lunga yesum shaking Trwanda wote Yonyate then penna Terchen body, that take check tanda body. Ta gomda nyomo meba song you capsula, that to some gum some day zovke gamda wochi yenayam. Then tuba. Tambo tuba sarvike kapsula sosuke lama tene ta nelo kanyin bat yonzu zoba tamjete slav yonzo yomba kapsula tupe dondo je kana tupe dondo je sambe tenla pap tene tetabu tupe dondo je sab kapsula te ngone tane ke sosuke Rekpa te ta tanda kondi shiba tasula tupa tabu kedu ke tolo korsonga mayin bachege tene sambe ke gondi rimbe chendula ta sanje ke chote kande reindo takje yabo je tane tene yawa zogu sanje jomden de nyeki shane somba dawo che yenayang gelon takam kenam je sikje dabu sejento Lama chache kuchir mi songa bade te yendu kapsula sanje chamne ne konge kan te yena yang tene gelon tagam keba thamche ke ta set te chod chobate yang bad yang ta ba 24 kede ndawote ere tag kapsula thambo pena mela sekbata tene chebata davala sobe goni takje hokembo tange yore pe te yandala ta pena ta Sanje Jamne Konge Gati Yenaya, Te Yendo Latini, Koranta, Sopa La Sopa Goni, Pensunge, Tavik, Nelo Yantaba, the Kandajan, Dogan Domando, Taki Namik Goni Tini, Kora, Yang Topic, Gat Sematic, Kora, Yamana, Osum Sema, Yamana, Jibag, Semata, Somba, Nelo, Soyendo Latin, Tonking, Sanje Jamne Dege, Gati Rain, Donat, Tini, Tela, Kubatang. Tene tepa la sopa ke gone kowa re mato chege thanda mewa la sanje ke kari sen tene kona kelen kowa dawo tene kanya yoma re song yoba re te yendu kapsala te tato la tene kona thambo tepe tondo che padu sambe ten la pap thar gombe ke Gyamtso len yoba kapsala Ta tope dondo che ne sambe tela papa yena ya. Tene ngone tane ke tela kona Yeshe tembo che yon matoba che. Ngone tane ke nang sem ke nelo tela pembe ke yonten chebar chen che mache wache. Che yorke che ta kona rotan da wache ke tone. Kepe ke sen sam zembanda wache re sonwa yena. Tene ngone tane sem tenge te ndor tuku yo mare. Tene sem tenge te ndor mato pa yena. Ta tanda ngaran so khowa sene keda chenpo che yo re. Nyangen len depa setu kapsala yenda manda waki tene yonten pad me pata demba tene tu nomyen yuwa me panda wachi topju yosan do sambeke gone konde ke nelo te ta depanda wachi chek che chek tepe marong panda wa manyi panda wachi ta chek te matam na tamme panda wachi ta zangbo ta nyembe ke ndoye ya depanda wachi ke lochi nganan sola yobari ta te tabu ke sem te yobala tene tene ta nyinti ke wang chuku yori da tang yin senken dabo nyangin len deba tang khowa senken dabo ta tende ke sem gen doshe che la yan dabo kapsala tene te pa ma che pa la tene ta ngaran so la thobo khowa la thondo yori la te tabu ta nyinte de chapar chawa la tene gombe ke nyam so lene ta ngone tane ke ta to ke ton dabo te to thop go yori te topic ke kapsala pena tope dondo che sambe tan la pha gombe nyam sling se te kapsala tene ta gomta te la khare go yori senata ta thoda shegin trova gomda nyomo me pa sengini go yori ta gombe ke ta chö sur yendo shebe ke ta lamme te donga ta menga la sope ke tene chö ndabo ji shuwa yena ya rong rang ke lowa yena ya rong kare yena ya te ke thon sur yendo la shebe ke ta te la tene pe lusem la nyomo me pa che ngone tane tang gare ke pe yan de kapsula tene timbe dodo da bo go so ha re timbe dodo te tene kamba ke nem yon khora ran yi ke man do re nem sa so na ran shu ke khora yan phan do de wa so te ta do la thon na man tem pa me pa ta sala yin na yan thon to pa da wa ta te ta bo ke tene gomta la nyomo me pa ji go song yo de te ta wo main pa che ke to ne la me nga kase sho donga kase sho ngor kase je tyo ba yin na ya tene ko da nyomo chero so wanda wo che yin na ta ne la nyambo men te mazu panda wo che de no go yo de ta te ta wo main be to ne ta ta na ngaran so la ta jen jojo sambe melo Rinpoche thapa tam do mate tare ke thukam de ta wo shin la cha ya pa yin na tene ngone tane ke sanje de chanjo samba tam je ke thoje manam thula phabe ke thonjen tang te tam do maze ba je ke ta no jo ya ga tham che la yin na yang ta no jo ke je wo phomo la so ba tham je te je wa homme ke sonam ke so che pa tam pha ba tap manam che pa tam pha ba ndo ba la ten tare ke thukam de la tene khora sanje ke chö ten pa ma che pa la tene che ke jaga nam so tat pa ta che bo tamba tham che yin na yang pa ma che pa la phet pa ta phe pa tam de ma ze be te tam je ke thu che malam la ten tene tambe chu yang ta ba so so ke hyo be ke tumba ta me ba ta tene nyam sa lembe ke ndo she yo ba yin na ten te ta bo len to pe ke ko kap zambo cho do cho ba je tab yo ba ne ta te ta bo ko kap te che se namne ke pa to la ne ke e de sana te se kala ka bo yo de pe na de pe ke samlon da bo che ngana so ke ta wa yin na ta senjo de je pa ne zon de pe kan chen ke jon da bo che yin na tene kyanlam cho som ke thuje manam la ten Ta ting hone tarjo tarjo bare te mixe ke ta tege kap singina tene sanje ke temba nyima shawata wa te ke nane jang sangha dorje te ke temba te pyo kanchen ke jonde nyima shawata wa chongare te chone ta lo jara mangpo che ke ne yo bare te ta tande ke kap sala ina tso kale kabo che ke thanda bo che la tho yo bare te yendu kapsala ta sanje chomnen da ke ndrb ke nane gelon ta shepan ndrb se yendu jine tong tombe temba ya ngepan jepan jowa yena che che sondre tan kupe ke gone nyamsul ne mar meje sen son yo bare te yendu kapsala ta tanda koda len chek dola zam de be kapsala tene kase yena ya sosu ki nyamne so topatang kase yenaya sosuke semjo le yarto padang sem te min tobiat hidag pe karchen bore de yore ta te tab yembe gone ta te tab duhe tang tene sem member tang ndige yomare tan de tab chote ngana yenaya tene tabat tamjen je khamba lana me ba tabat zogi te tam de maze ba chege nāngkān tātā ñāmbā pāma simye tamje lāya te tātā la pende lāna me ba dōp tōpe ke teni mālam dābo simje dābo te nāwa yena teni rāndōn tō teni pāma pōnsam sōpa tā tōpa pōnsam sōpa ngāndu chōpa tā yendōn tō lām tenpa tā lām je kek tenpa ngāndu chōtapa dābo te tāpe ke nipa chapar kenta tenpa te yungi yore tene te tola yana serona.
Good morning, everyone. Please listen with the motivation of bodhicitta, which is the thought that all beings throughout space must be brought to the achievement of perfect Buddhahood, and that it is in order to bring that about that you will listen to the Dharma. The Dharma with which we are concerned here this morning is the collected songs of Terchen Barway Dorje. What are such collections? Collections of songs, of instructions, of oral teachings, and so on. Basically, they all serve one principal purpose or function, which is to help us change. And changing means that our minds change for the better. We become better people. What does this mean? About the effect that the study and practice of Buddhism is intended to have on us, it is said, the sign of having heard the Dharma is to be tranquil and subdued. The sign of having meditated is to have no kleshas. Having heard the Dharma means having studied, such as in a shedra or monastic college, where you will spend years of assiduous effort studying things like the 5 great books and various other treatises on the sutra and tantra aspects of the Buddha Dharma. And after you graduate from the shedra, you are called learned, and you may be given the title Kempo. But what you are supposed to be, aside from titles, is tranquil, peaceful, and subdued, which means gentle. The idea of becoming a gentle or subdued person is very much central to the Buddha Dharma. The 3 collections of the Buddha's teachings, the Vinaya, which means the taming or subduing, the sutras, and the Abhidharma, were all taught by the Buddha for one purpose, to give us the means necessary to tame our own minds. If that doesn't happen, if the more Dharma we learn, the more arrogant and rigid we become, if we become more and more opinionated, more and more prone to praising ourselves and denigrating others, if our minds become harder and more rigid and calloused, then no matter how much we may know, no matter how much we may be able to repeat, all we know is words. And if we know lots of words without really understanding the meaning, we will undoubtedly misuse them. We'll use them to aggrandize ourselves, to gain position, to control others and manipulate them, and so on. Such a course of study is a total, complete, and absolute waste of time and effort. So, the sign of really having heard the teachings, not just studied them, is that you become a gentle and kind person. Nevertheless, that is still merely an external sign. The sign of having meditated has to be far more than that. The purpose of meditation is to eradicate the kleshas. So the only valid indication of proper meditation is just that, having no kleshas. The whole process of study and practice, where we begin by attending a guru, and we hear the teachings through which we eradicate misunderstandings about reality and gain a conceptual understanding of how things work and how to respond to them. And then analysis or careful thought, where we establish the validity of the teachings. These two steps must finally be followed by meditation, because although we eradicate conceptual misunderstandings and generate conceptual certainty about reality through the first two steps, these two steps alone don't fundamentally change us. To change ourselves, we must practice meditation. These three steps are very necessary. And especially we have to be careful not to skip either the second or the third. The second step, where having heard the teachings, we analyze them to determine whether or not they are valid, should not be omitted out of an attitude of piety or blind faith, an attitude that seeks to accept what the Buddha is supposed to have said simply because he is supposed to have said it. Because among the other things the Buddha is supposed to have said is, monks, you and other wise people should always examine my teachings as you would gold you are thinking of buying, and never accept them out of respect alone. If the teachings are valid, if they are as pure as 24-karat gold, then we should be able to prove that. And until we determine through the type of analysis that is equivalent to the chemical testing of gold to determine its purity, until we prove that, we won't really be certain about the teachings, and we won't, therefore, be able to practice them wholeheartedly. We have to question the Dharma. We have to say, does this make sense? Are these statements logically valid? And we have to use every resource at our disposal, both inferential reasoning and direct observation. And then we can begin to really meditate. But if we avoid these steps, if we are left with mere information that we retain and can repeat, but no certainty about the true meaning of the teachings, we may have the title of a learned person and gain respect, but we will never be able to tame our own mind. The fundamental problem with such a case is that because we have never engaged in the necessary analysis and meditation, we have never resolved our basic fundamental problem, which is dualism. Through studying the Dharma, we learn all about samsara, how vast and terrible samsara is. And we learn a lot about nirvana, how great nirvana is. As a result, our acquisition of information that we have not really understood, let alone taken to heart, becomes merely another tool of fundamental dualism. As long as we continue to see samsara and nirvana as different, the one as something terrible to be abandoned, the other as something wondrous to be sought, we have not even begun to chip away at that fundamental dualism that is the cause of samsara. As long as we continue to see samsara and nirvana as different things, we don't get it. We don't really get what the Buddha taught. We may be able to spout it, but we don't get it. Because as long as we see samsara and nirvana as two different things, we will continue to see self and other as two different things. And our selfishness and our self-fixation will be entirely undiminished. So these three steps, first hearing, then rigorous analysis, and finally assiduous meditation, are essential. And the final result of these is to have no kleshas, which means, as it says in several traditional texts, to become like a piece of the softest cotton, without rigidity, flexible, able to fit in with anyone, anytime, anywhere, like a piece of soft cotton that when stepped on, contracts, and when released, springs back up. If that doesn't happen, if the more we study, the more we learn, we become more and more rigid, more and more arrogant, more and more trying to be different from others and never fit in with others, something is very wrong. We live at a time and place where, due to the aspirations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and to our own merit, the merit of the men and women now living in these Western countries, the Buddha Dharma is readily available. Holy beings who properly transmit it are readily available. But this is not going to last forever. Buddha Dharma really came to Tibet in the 8th century due to the aspirations and activity primarily of three people: Guru Padmasambhava, King Trisong Detsen, and the Kashmiri abbot Shantarakshita. Buddha Dharma was there officially before that, in name at least. But nothing much really happened until those three people caused the light of Dharma to fill Tibet like sunshine. But as everyone knows, it only lasted for 12 centuries before disaster struck in the year 1950. So if the presence of Dharma in a place that we now regard as a source of Dharma for the world is so fragile, we should take that to heart. The Buddha himself said, "Monks, the Dharma too is impermanent. One day it will have entirely disappeared from this world. So be diligent in your practice." Be diligent in your practice means not just to do practice, but to practice correctly so that you change. If you don't change, nothing's happening. And changing means that your mind changes, your kleshas reduce. So, with that in mind, please make the resolution. I will listen to the teachings so that I be able to use this present opportunity to achieve the state of perfect Buddhahood, and thereafter bring all beings to that same state. That resolution, that intention, if it is genuine, will ensure that you become a Buddha, a fearless Buddha. Buddhas are fearless in that they are fearless in the midst of any group or assembly in proclaiming the truth of the path, the truth of what is overcome by the path, and proclaiming that they have realized everything that is to be realized and abandoned everything that is to be abandoned. Yes.
Lama yago che yore, pe mase bega lama nyamne che chaba dum papa. Da kon tamba me pe mase be tamba che da toware. Te to the ka the tamba te ki chöshin mambo se. Lama te ki khona na te the pen yong te. Da ona ngeni soba jago songare. So degere ko soba khare jago dan chona chodon khare ko la soba jago dan nge ja cho kala khan yong ma de.
Tamba Dega.
Tamba Dega. Ya ta ona chona tamcha do nge soba jas. Lama te ki ta ko ne. Ko ha ko sa mare gon. Cho ko long ko to ko sum de khare de ta cho ya. Te me he aka ma de le la bo de. Chobom de choga kana chogore. Poma de choga kana chobom choga kana chogore. Te la long ta ta na long ko de. Long ta de ma te ne ya kana to ko de. Da te lama khona ne hyo de. Lama te ke ninge ngone ta ne ki cho ta ne ko ma nywa. Den de je ki ninge ma la nge ji ndo ko ne hyum do wa. Te ko lama de so ta chong de cho la ma jang na ngo go de chawa ma bo ngde. Tan dan de chong yo de na mo bo yu de lama de. Ta de na bo de ndo de.
If you don't practice in that way, then you can become like this guy. There was a good Lama, good practitioner, who encountered a con artist. And the con artist was quite glib. And he came to talk to the Lama, to talk to him about Dharma. And the Lama thought, well, maybe I can help him, lead him to some understanding of the truth. And he said, well, let's have a debate. And the con artist said, well, that's fine. I'll try to answer any questions you want to ask. So, figuring that he would reveal to the con artist that he didn't really know much about Dharma, he said to him, okay, what are the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya? Now, this is not going to be funny in English, because it's puns in Tibetan. The Dharmakaya in Tibetan is Tulku, but chu sounds, if you say it in an Eastern Tibetan accent, sounds a lot like the word for water. Chu means Dharma, and chu means water. So if you don't understand what Tulku is, you might say, what is the body of water? So, and he said, well, this is easy, I can answer this. The body of water is a vase, or a pot, a jar, filled with water. And then the Sambhogakaya in Tibetan is longku. And long means, it's an abbreviation of enjoyment or wealth or possession. But there's another word, long, that means a longtak, which is a cord that you use to hold something. Like what's that word for when you have a card around your neck and it's a lanyard? Yeah, lanyard is called can be called a longtak. But anyway, so he said, well, then the longku the lanyard body is when you attach a cord to that vase or that bottle. And then Nirmanakaya is Tulku, but Trul in Eastern Tibetan accent sounds like Trul, which means to untie. And he said, and then the Nirmanakaya is just when you untie the cord. He says, this is very easy. So the guy answered the question, what are the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, by saying, oh, I know that. That's easy. The Dharmakaya is when you fill a bottle with water, and the Sambhogakaya is when you attach a cord to it so you can carry it, and the Nirmanakaya is just when you untie the cord. He says, what's hard about that? So when he said that to the Lama started to weep. And then the con artist said to him, misunderstanding why the Lama was weeping, he said, oh, don't cry. He says, I know you didn't know that, but that's what happens. If you don't study when you're young, then you won't be learned when you're old.
Yeah, Sawa Lama. Namande, Ransom Yin Nabala, Treasury Chidor Chebata, Gondo, Jingot of Land, Na, Ye Concho Kundu Lama La, Zomeje, some the Mugundu, Star, Ye, Sawa Lama Namlandu, some Capsulata, Terchen Barway Dorje, Lama Kase, Yoba Yenaya, Te Tamje La, Ndeba, Chan Savata, Hondoa Tang. Ransom Yin Nobolas, Tangone, Tanege, Ransom Chokotober Change Law, sending another to Jundola, Love the Yorabas. That day in the Kausala, Tenekoran, Aran Suga, Semge, Nel Dabo Tella, Tene Jong. Kunzang Tawa, Yonte Kunzang Demba, Koda Tewa Meba, Kawa Meba, Yons Zoba Tamji, Ta Yonte, and Dawa Yajingo Tabola, Yopachi Yimbe Chane, Ta Rang Sem Te, Tene Chedor Chepat and Papa Jeneta, Young Topic Church Dropa Yena, Ta Rang Sem Te, Yin Nobata Radio, Pay Yin Nobel Yaz, they were the Cadre Sena, Ta Yin Nobo Gondo Punjong, Senkate Davachi Yena, Tene Nobote Chedorche, Tamazo, Tosala Ya, Tene Sosuke, Kade, Yo Panjur Yena Yanda, Sona Wanta Yena Yanda. Courage young go yoba yena ya teta yoma show send so topic capsula so tapa tato la ngoto tamjin young yabe jonten la ten rang semte pe yin abata yin send so ade ta ten de rea de yode tele chabatum papa de yode ta rang sem rang te Then Kora church go in big chane, yin noble jatan, chapan papa chede yobari, teta was a ten, Ransem yin noble de la Tenshi chidor chapatang, statanda, Kondangana to Keja Mambo, Jatonson, pet teta to la, Ta yin Ransem yin noble te, one the church tabla, Kare go yord sena. Tembata Heyin Gogiores, Tembata Heyin te Nobu Chitoro Chebata la Tembata Heyin te Latin, then Semge Nello Yun Yong Capsula, then te Cone Compendo Beke, then Tab Davo Chotu Chubata Tela, then Younger Yord, Tela Tene, Tenshije, Chidor Chebatang, Gondo Yingot of Land na starting Hegi Chidor Chene. Then Nabane, Gondo, Goto Lambatato la, Rang, Semgen, Nelo de, Sorry, Gendola, Tone, Tatogen, Debo, on the Jubegitini, Goto Teta, Lamban Dapa Yena, Jo Kundu, Ye, Conjo, Kunde, Lama la, Ye, Zome, Ye, Sonde Mugundu, Stateta, and Dapa Yena, then it's also Lama. Savga Lama Telayam, ta sanje chu gendu senaya rong lama yedon kando senaya rong de tando ta tusum ke sanje ta chanjo samatam chete ndubu ke rangi yembe ke chena tene je konjo kon ndubu ke tene lama sosu ke tawa lama tela yi zome ke sondep tam mugu tense kogare ta te tawa lama la yi zome ye sondep tam mugu cheba tela tene tene ta ransen yigin nabate to tabakin rewa karenda boche yore sewa yina ta te chetange ta ransen yigin nabate sewa te tanda ngaran sola ngos chupa mari kot chupa nda boche redi yore ta te lama la sowa tabi yungbe kapsula ye koncho ke kundu ngo lama te la sowa tabi yungbe kapsula tene te tabo te ngondo chobe ke tap chepata papa te pata mogu ke lamne tambe ke tene rangsem nelo yang tapa te to tope yonten chepar jen yobe ke chani tene sonde te mogu zechu te karchen bore sene soma re cho konje tawa yembe chara thon rangsem soma kechi la te machu rik ngando chong sta cho konje tawa yimbe che sta ransem ge nelo chong ya te ta rang ge sem ge nelo chong ya da bo te la cha ya ba yin na ta chu sen ken che ge ta pa na chu ji pumbo yete yetong sen se yo de no nyo mon do cha do yin bo la do de no ni te che do ere
Lare, so the
Shedang da temon do nyembo la ta do de da ngombe de no ni de chedon la so bata to so chanyam do nyembo la tene de no samba jete chedon sen ta te ta bo sung yo de ta te ta bo ge chu konje ta wa de kala tu go yo de sen na sem ge nyomon do ge ched la sung yo de ma to je ge tele los churbe ke tene choji kaya yo mare yonse tela tene chu konje tawa yimbe ke chana ton ransem soma ke chima sta ton do la rang sem soma se yon at kana tene labu yo de sena nyom mompege male pala ta yo mare pala tene nyom mompege le soin ta de sama mare te kona chong hyok sabe ge pena hindo chebar chenji yoba yena ya tela tik se rusik da wa che ki chong hyok de wa che yena tene tela sama se marwa ning wala yung de o te yendu kapsula ton rang semte tene rang sem te ya soma sebe ke kapsula rang sem tene ngone thane ke kora yonten konde kyong konda ke rangi lobro ke theme madip rangi tela ta soma se ke yore pena ta lobro theme dip soma yena tene pena chong shor soma da bo yena sena ya don ta chong shor se wa te ngone ke pe tik sin de ki yo mari Nima tembe dep samanda bo sewa yena tek se pete chepat phabanda chi yong sa de te yindu la te tab te nima tembe dem do be kapsula nyeme ge sabe yoten khare yoba yena ya te thamje te nyeme ge rangje la yoba de te yena ya lob tembe ge teme dep kapsula te tab thon thu bu yo ma de pe te yindu la ta rangsem yin na bo soma kan yin ma te la tene ngone thane ge ta marik pa ge thme ge debu yo marik tene kora thma singen te lobor ware ransem te yen ma cho ba dam hila ne de be ge rangin jire te yendu kapsula tond te nyin la ne kap lobor ge thme ge deva sam jire ma to yin deva khan yo marik te tab ge sama ke ji ma te la macho rik mangando chong sta samga nero kan yimba tela tene macho be goni ta teki ngana ne tobe tamda wo kari nda wo ji chong toba yana tene te ngana chong ya de hira kan chembo re tondo da sando ji rewa pon sta ngana so ge te sa ji gom sinking tella, ta magi take such a dinner and tombo and double the song and do. Gyamtso tella ten and Ananga Kase hit to Yumi, Ranger number Kase, saying to Yumi, Yago, the Ananga Shidahako Mando, Tenaya, and Tondo, the Sando, Reva Pong, singing the Kade Sena, ta get them the Zodem, Tinan, gom double, Tondon double in a day, touching an answer. Nying one yopek kanzayina. Hencha takes some dog yori. Hencha the current dog yori sena. Gum japek capsula chick. Such a yapo daji chuna. Ah, touching arange gomte. Sawa yapo chunso ape. Jigwach chunso samba tabuki. Zambuk and dushi. Sati chapwadawa. 야, 감 잡에 그 capsula 때 사지 침묵은 태반다고 마사반다고 중앙에나 야, 다 되는 감지 잡아 있는 게 싫다. 할래보지 좀 마송 삼만다고 다 된대 게 되니 거다 로스 휴침봉하는 사람도 그래. 된대 그 로데 되니 초징의 삼모 땅와이나 다 라팔람도 쇼베 간산다고 지나 ten te go yori ten da bo mazo ba yena ten tato ge ten gom nyuma ti jule che tu go mari te ge jomsen la ten go yori ten na ya ngone ge ta so si sem ge ne lo la so yendo la ripa ya tongken ge kanza je yena ta te ta go lo tan go yo mari mo go wa la ten te Yapon Toman Dubeke, Teni, Dumbatan, Sawan Dubeke, Teni, Rewata, Tatsukan, the Payat Hitaki Karchimbores, Mesarawata, Mehi Gobachos, Mesata, Mehi Topati, Payogan, the Giddies, Tessam the yellow top of pores, oh, Tataling at the Gomyapore, Mason, Sambata, Takase, Gomba Yenaya, Tenite. One tannic Sultan Savochi Yaboji on Tugmendo Sambeke, Teni, Chatang, Unimbo Gomne, Yaboyung Sambata, Teni, G. Lopate Sabuke, Topala Sambatamji, Payogore, Yam Desert, Machine Shakes Yam. Nyam desala machine sheketa nyam kona tandege nyam nabenda de yanendo sen somare te yendo capsula ta nyam la tene chitari ke capsula devo sabonda bochi chonson sambeken do shenda bochi la shemba yena ta nabenda bochi de ta nyam nabenda de yanendo somare te yendo capsula hen nyam desal la mahin shikji shiksita de pa shikogre metoga rola jongar pons tamato pero tela jongar panju de hirak karchembore kanharje namto teyang soso la kar harson yana yang ta dege capsula onege hinek capsula ina hingbula tene gombatan dobola tene gombatan o in jingo la tene gomba tang pena sanje ko la tene gomba la sope ge mikten da wo go yode ta te ta wa ni ma song ba de ta khare ma song ba de sena pena ransem ke ende chene ransem senkente ranjing ge sab ranjing de nom do senkente ta pan mache pe ranjing de tela tu nam de ya Gare ke sambe ke capsula gam pe masi pe ke heng kanza je yena nam do cha samma singa ronda wo de de yo sa de samanda wo de he yong se ke de te ta wa ni ne ma de nam do senkente par mache pala one yo de te yo de capsula khare ke nam do char swa yena ya zangbu ke nam do char wa yena ya rong Nembek namdo shawa yena yarong. Kande jek namdo je sharson na yang. Namdo te ngang to las. Ta namdo te ke jes mando ache. 다 넘도 두고 샤와이나 아 단디 넘도 빼마세 두자인도 근데 까고는도 내 야보 짠도 삼비게 넘도 두부긴도 해 마야와체 야고지 샤와이나 대 넘도 제발도 파바진도 내게 제일 조고근도 내 공네 공면서 고근도 삼비긴도 해짠 매와지 체네 넘도 가래 샤와이나야 깨지 당분 넘도 샤와 되게 강라 Then Sam Saya Meba Ticket, Johnson, that take Nana Tenny, Sam John, that Kona Montuni, Yugati, like a cartoon body. Get up that the more job and shows, that take Tabage, Sam Ganello Tabak Capsula, then it number can, a shower taying answer. Mine by Sam Ticket, like Yana taying on John Tabatan. Then look at the young chatolata, give out the batang. The papa la soba chetabayina, then chot jobatang, redo the tribe and devon doves. That dayan pena give out the big capsula, tondo da, tando da, chendo geva. Teta botang, the papa with capsula yan, tate, tabu gone de some teta maimpa. Ngone tane ke sose ke lasum number tape goni gyawa topa yena yang tene tela yabo yome ke rewan dabo kaya mwatang kora yenda ke nelo kaya tenge to ne tene ne redo tamche da tape ngone teta wo topa yena dabo chot chubatin do to guri ton teta kama yenda ngos 다 동대 연돌 단데 걸 생각에 가르를 세나 간사 소식에 샘교라 빠빠게 고니 삽자리 빼나 나랑서 체제를 차자 봐이나 오늘 단에게 샘동 받던 저게 되네 코나 샘 마제 완다버지 여봐이나 들란도네 되네 깨자 셰드 값을라 소식에 샘 되던 삼백게 깨자 셰 용도 값을라 된데 샘나 팽인도 와서 Semla Pembate, Ta Nekab Sem took Rangitella, then the Pengi Yodavas. Ta Teta Dola, Ta Jebo Tamba, Ta took Nello Suriendo Topic Kanzat Zoke, Ta Kona Gom Suriendo Japake Kanza, Semdong Nello, and Wakana Kansam Salam do top debate Tamjela subject that Tavo. Now we get capsula, then they take Kora young topic, Nello, one the Jutable Pengi Yoris. Take it, Johnson Latin, Tetar, Kama Yendang Horo, Ne Singed Zongi Kesane, Partandon Barway Dorje, Ne, Ton, Chagja Chambon Tobarco, so on.
For those who are following in the text, the song that we begin with this morning is on page 90. We're going through these songs in the sequence that they're found in the edition that was used for the translation. So the title given to this song is I Bow to Those Lords, My Root Gurus. It doesn't have a title as in the case of most of these songs. We simply used the first line of the song or part of the first line of the song as a title because we expect titles. The song begins with a single line. Well, actually, we can't really say what's a single line here because the song is not really divided into stanzas. Into typical stanzas. It's been divided into bits based upon the content or subject of the bits. And again, because when we have, in English, when we have books with verse on them, we expect to see a lot of blank white paper. And if we don't see enough space on the page, we won't read it. So therefore, we divided the songs up into bits. So the first bit is, I bow to those lords, my root gurus. Here, we can infer from the plural, the Terchen Barway Dorje is paying homage to all of his root gurus. And then he begins to address his principal topic with the first line of the second bit, which says, if you want to cleanse the wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind. Now, the order of English and Tibetan are necessarily somewhat different. So, in fact, the equivalent line in Tibetan just says the wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind. So the idea of your mind being a wish-fulfilling jewel comes first, and the idea of cleansing it and how to cleanse it comes second. So the first concept or idea that he introduces here is that the mind, our minds, are like wish-fulfilling jewels. What is a wish-fulfilling jewel? In legend, a wish-fulfilling jewel is something that if treated with respect, that is to say, raised aloft onto the peak of a flagpole type structure, and properly cleansed, will grant all one's wishes. It will give you everything that you want and everything that you need. So what is being said here is that whether we know it or not, our minds, that mind that each of us has, are just like wish-fulfilling jewels. They are potentially capable of giving us everything we want and everything we need. But like a wish-fulfilling jewel, only if we make it possible for them to do so. So in the same way, the mind has to be revealed, which is like raising or hoisting the wish-fulfilling jewel to the peak of a flagpole. The mind has to be made prominent, and it has to be cleansed. So the topic here is how to cleanse the wish-fulfilling jewel of our mind. The starting point is the understanding, the outlook, because he's going to be going through outlook or view, meditation, conduct, and fruition in this song. The outlook that we begin with is the understanding that our mind is a wish-fulfilling jewel, that it's worth revealing, worth a cleansing. So the next thing is, we have this wish-fulfilling jewel, how do we cleanse it? And he says, if you want to cleanse the wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind with recollection and awareness. So the cleansers that we use to remove the sediment or other things that veil or hide the wish-fulfilling jewel of our mind are two. They are recollection or mindfulness and awareness or vigilance. And what is the function of these? Through mindful investigation of the mind, through being mindful, as will be explained later in the song, of your mind, you come to recognize it, recognize its nature. And recognizing the nature of your mind through mindful awareness or through mindfulness is like, for example, putting the wish-fulfilling jewel on top of the flagpole. But then you have to sustain, Rinpoche said, that recognition. A moment of recognition of the mind's nature doesn't do very much unless it's cultivated or sustained. And to sustain it, which is like cleansing the wish-fulfilling jewel, takes vigilance. And the details of this will be explained in the song as well. So, if you want to cleanse the wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind with recollection and awareness, then in the third line, it says, if you wish to receive from that jewel the siddhi of all you need. So if you want your mind to yield all that you want and need, to give you all that you want and need, in other words, if you want to make the best use of your mind, so how do you do this? He said, well, you use mindfulness and alertness, or recollection and awareness. But he says, if you want to use recollection and awareness, there is a technique, there is a point to how to do that. And this is answered in the last two lines of this bit, which say, if you want to do all of that, pray with unbearable devotion to your guru, all of the three jewels personified. So the point of this bit is, if you want to meditate well on your mind's nature, the key to doing that is to pray to your guru. And he makes 2 points about this. Who is your guru? And therefore, why do you, which includes, by implication, why you pray to them, and how do you pray to them? As for who the guru is the embodiment or personification of all of the three jewels. You can say the guru is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, all of them in a single person. Or you can say, Rinpoche said, the guru is the gurus, yidams, and dakinis, all in a single person. It means the same thing. The point is, there is no source of refuge, no deity that we might worship or appeal to outside or other than the guru. How do you pray to the guru? With unbearable devotion. Unbearable because it's so strong, so intense, that you can't bear not to express it through prayer. And that is the key. By praying to the guru whom you know to be the embodiment of the three jewels, with the resulting attitude based on that knowledge of unbearable devotion, something happens. What happens is that wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind, which is now hidden, we're all using our minds right now, we're all thinking and listening and talking and so on, so we're all using this wish-fulfilling jewel, but it's not manifest to us, it's all hidden. That hidden wish-fulfilling jewel is revealed when you pray to your guru. Provided that you have the certainty that the guru is the embodiment of all of the three jewels, and that certainty leads to unbearable devotion. What does it do? It parts the clouds that cover the sun of your mind. So the first point of the song is, if you want to meditate on the nature of your mind, the key to doing so successfully is to pray to the guru in the way specified. In the next bit, having taught the best way to reveal the mind's nature, to part the clouds, he then explains how to sustain this recognition. The recognition is best gained, perhaps only gained, through devotion. But then comes the question, how do we sustain this? And therefore, in the next bit, he says, as it is the root of all dharma, cultivate with unaltered awareness the fresh mind of the moment. First of all, he says, the root of all dharma. Dharma here means what the Buddha taught. And we generally say that the Buddha taught 84,000 aggregates or types of Dharma. We conveniently, as a mnemonic device, divide them into equal quarters. We say 21,000 of these aggregates consist of the Vinaya, which serve as remedies for attachment. 21,000 of them consist of the sutras or dialogues, which serve as remedies to anger. 21,000 of them consist of the Abhidharma, which consists of remedies, which are remedies to ignorance or bewilderment. And 21,000 of them consist of the Tantras, which are remedies to various combinations of the three poisons. The point of this is that whatever the Buddha taught, 84,000 or more than 84,000 aggregates of teaching, everything he taught, everything he said, had a single purpose, which was to teach us how to tame our kleshas. So when Terchen Barway Dorje says, as it is the root of all Dharma, he's saying, as it is the way to actually do what Dharma is supposed to do, as it is the way to tame your kleshas, cultivate with unaltered awareness the fresh mind of the moment. In other words, he's saying that the faculty of mind that we use to sustain recognition of the mind's own nature is the faculty of mind that tames and finally eradicates the kleshas. Now, key point here is found in the third line, which is this adjective fresh. And fresh here, Rinpoche said, has the connotation of fresh, like fresh fruit, as opposed to rotten fruit, or something that is fresh as opposed to something that is stale. Well, the mind, of course, doesn't actually become stale, and it doesn't actually rot. Rinpoche said at that point the analogy is no longer appropriate. But what's called a fresh mind means a mind that experiences the present moment. A stale mind is a mind that is conceptualizing, that is thinking about the past or speculating about the future. Now, a mind that is conceptualizing the present is actually conceptualizing the past. It thinks it's conceptualizing the present, but it's actually conceptualizing the past, because it takes a moment to think about something, and once you've thought about it, it's already past. So the only fresh mind is the mind that is present right now. The equivalent, to return to the analogy of rotten fruit, the rot in rotten fruit is the kleshas. So a mind that is fresh, being present right now and not conceptual, is at that moment free of kleshas. At this point, Rinpoche said it would be better to change analogies, because, as I said, the mind itself, of course, doesn't rot. It's not like fruit that rots. So it's better to think of this as the sun and clouds, because a rotten fruit indicates that there's something faulty about the fruit. The fruit is capable of rotting. But the mind, in that sense, is more like the sun, which doesn't change. So the fresh mind of the moment is like the sun without clouds. When your mind is present in the present moment, it is like the sun in a cloudless sky. As soon as you start thinking about the past, or speculating about the future, or thinking that you're thinking about the present, which is really thinking about the past, that's like you've introduced clouds. Now, it's important to understand the aspects of this analogy because it's so often used. We've returned to it twice in this song. The sun in the analogy represents the nature of your mind, what your mind is in and of itself. The clouds represent kleshas. And in this case, kleshas and concepts are more or less the same thing, because concepts will always, because they're dualistic, lead to kleshas. It's important to understand the difference between the sun and the clouds. The sun is unaffected, unchanged by the presence or absence of the clouds. The sun is always there. But our access to the sun is affected. The sun of mind is primordial, therefore unchanging. It's beginningless and endless. Nothing can happen to it. Nothing can affect it. The clouds are adventitious, extrinsic, other, separate. Therefore, they are temporary. No matter how long these clouds may last, they are not intrinsic to the sun. They are not innate to the sun. They are secondary to the sun. So therefore, there is the possibility, always, of a cloudless sky. And the cloudless sky of sustaining recognition of the mind's nature is cultivated by unaltered awareness of the fresh mind of the moment. And unaltered awareness here simply means that fresh mind. So it doesn't mean that there's a second awareness looking at that fresh mind. That fresh mind of the moment experiencing itself is unaltered because there are no concepts, there are no kleshas. Now, at this point in the song, it turns to, Rinpoche said, somewhat highfalutin responses to problems in meditation. And because the song is clearly designed for someone of an advanced level of practice, Rinpoche said, frankly, I don't know how much I understand, and I don't know how much you're going to understand. But what I can say is that in this fourth bit, what Terchen Barway Dorje is addressing is the problem of dualism. And the problem of dualism in practice is that there is a bit of a dichotomy. On the path, we are trying to do something. We are trying to change. Therefore, we have a guiding purpose, an underlying purpose. We hope to change. We fear not changing. If we're honest, Rinpoche said, whenever we practice, we hope it will go well. We fear it might not go well. We don't want it to go poorly. We want it to go well. However, while on the path, we need to have that guiding purpose, it is actually a problem because it prevents recognition of the mind's nature. As I said earlier this morning, dualism, if not eradicated, prevents realization. The two cannot coexist. So therefore, in the first line of the next bit, Terchen Barway Dorje says, give up the desire to see something and the hope of or for clarity. Now, another thing is that he's not talking here about the practice of a beginner. He's talking about a level of practice where the person has already gained a basic recognition of their mind's nature and is seeking merely to sustain that. In that context, trying to see something special will be, as an active idea or purpose, will be detrimental. Because the desire to see something is contradictory to the non-dualistic state of self-awareness. Now, we all hope for clarity in our meditation. When we're meditating on deities, we want a clear image. When we're looking at the nature of our minds, we want some kind of clear recognition or insight. Unfortunately, that hope itself is an obscuration, because hope and desire are a prejudice. We approach meditation with the prejudice of wanting one thing and not another. Prejudice is not the fresh mind of the moment. In the same way, he says, cast aside thoughts of doubt and passivity. For example, when you are in doubt about what is happening, or you are concerned, but the word that I translated passivity here is jilokpa, which means just kind of letting things. It's a kind of laziness that's just not really caring enough to do something. So you could say apathy, but you can't cast aside a doubt of apathy, because if you're apathetic, you're not trying to. So it means don't attempt to micromanage your meditation. And then he says, don't cling to experiences of bliss and clarity. Destroy them. We cling to experiences, especially positive experiences, because they seem at the time to be the best thing we have ever experienced. We cling to them either because we mistake them to be what we are trying to achieve, or because they feel so good, they make us feel better temporarily, or because while we don't mistake them to be the goal, we are very impressed by them. His point here is, don't be impressed by your own experiences. Cling to means when you are impressed by it and you give it a value other than just something you see on the way, like by the side of the road. Destroy them doesn't mean that you have to try to stamp them out. That would not be freshness either. But it means don't try to hold on to them. Let them go. Rinpoche quoted from a traditional statement that experiences are like mist and will always dissipate. And the reason for the analogy of mist is that under certain circumstances, with a certain type of fog, you can look at fog and mistake it for a clear sky. But then at a certain point you realize, no, that's not the blue sky, that's mist. So in the same way, experiences of bliss and clarity can seem to be recognition of the mind's nature, but they're not. And the proof that they're not is simply that they will dissipate, just as mist dissipates. And then he concludes this bit with, give up boredom with the taste of no thoughts. The experience of the mind sustaining self-recognition is not thrilling or special. It's not something extraordinary. And one of the problems we may get into is thinking, oh, there must be something better than this. I'm looking for something more special. I want fireworks. I want, all sorts of things. Now, the next bit, Rinpoche said, we need to understand the context, the practical context for this piece of advice. Terchen Barway Dorje here is clearly not talking about the practice of tranquility meditation. And in particular, he's not talking about tranquility with a support. Because in the practice of tranquility meditation, and especially as mostly practiced with a support, where you direct your attention to a pebble or a twig or a statue of the Buddha or something like that, you are not impartial. You have given one thing special status, so that you define in that context distraction as losing track of or losing sight of in your mind the pebble, twig, or statue. So that pebble, that twig, that statue has a status that nothing else you see and nothing else you can think of has. It's special for the purpose of that practice. But in the practice of insight meditation, nothing has special status. And therefore, we need to understand that context, because he says, within whatever thought arises, cultivate your mind as it is, without removal and addition. And that's a little bit different from what you're doing in tranquility with a support. Now, within whatever thought arises may surprise you, because we often imagine that meditation consists of the mind staying still. If we think of thought as action or movement within the mind, we often imagine that meditation consists of a state of stillness where the mind does not move at all, no thoughts arise, where the mind has no content, no events occur for or within the mind, like the mind of a dead body. That is not meditation as we define it. The mind, of course, like everything else, is empty, but it has a particular defining attribute, which is lucidity. Minds are, by definition, things that know. They're lucid, they experience, they have awareness. So therefore, thoughts, in and of themselves, are nothing more than occurrences or instances of the mind's lucidity. Therefore, the arising of a thought is not regarded as a problem requiring a solution. The arising of a thought is natural. That's what minds do. The problem is our intervention. The problem is our response to the arising of a thought through removal and addition. In other words, meddling. Now you may say, but isn't meditation meddling with the mind? Was I not meddling with the mind until I started to meditate? In fact, no. Meditation is learning to stop meddling with the mind. We've always meddled with our mind. And the proof of that is that we have preferences. We entertain certain thoughts. We even teach ourselves to think about certain things to make ourselves feel better. That's addition. And we train ourselves all our lives to get rid of certain thoughts. That's removal. And the problem with this is that we are too concerned with the content of thoughts and not enough with the stuff of thought. What is thought? Well, thought in and of itself is just the same lucidity that characterizes the mind. So therefore, within whatever thought arises, cultivate your mind as it is without removal and addition. Well, what do I do when a thought arises if I don't do the two things that I'm used to doing? I don't try to get rid of it, removal, or to keep it going, addition. Simply look at it. The only other possibility is to look directly at it. Not at the content, that's addition, because then you're entertaining the strands within the thought. And not ignoring it, that's removal. If you say, oh, I don't want to think about that, stop thinking, that's removal. The only other possibility is to look directly at the stuff of the thought itself. And that means, Rinpoche said, in the first moment when the thought arises, look directly at it. It doesn't mean to look at a thought that was there. That's not the mind of freshness. The thought is only worth looking at while it's there. In fact, you can't look at something that's no longer there. You're thinking about it. Now, an important point is made in the next line of this bit, which is where Terchen Barway Dorje turns from meditation, the predominant topic in this song, to conduct. Now, the difference between meditation and conduct, as explained here, is that meditation is how we relate to our thoughts while meditating. And conduct is how we relate to our thoughts and actions while not particularly meditating. And we need to make a distinction between these. And the reason is that in the context of meditation, we treat good thoughts and bad thoughts the same way. We are concerned with the stuff, the essence, the nature of thought, not with the content or shape of thought. But in post-meditation, since we're interacting with others, we have to carefully choose what we do. So, turning to conduct, he says, doing good and abstaining from wrongdoing is the best conduct. There's a lot of talk about yogic conduct and how we might act as appropriate to our level of meditation, but when push comes to shove, it really comes down to just behaving like a decent person, doing good and abstaining from wrongdoing. That's the best way to behave. And conduct means behavior. And then he turns, in the final line of the main body of the song, to the result. And he says, you will accomplish the result through freedom from hope and fear. Now this brings us back to the issue that we encountered in the bit that talked about how we respond to experiences and the desire for lucidity and so on. A result is something we hope to achieve. Because we hope to achieve the result, we practice. We wouldn't practice if we had no hope. And we fear not achieving it. But then we're told you can only accomplish the result through freedom from hope and fear. If we turn this statement on its head, what it is saying is we cannot accomplish the result through hope and fear. Hoping for the result will not cause us to achieve it. Fearing not attaining the result will not cause us not to achieve it. Doing what will lead to the result will. And the reason why we cannot achieve the result through hope and fear, or put another way, why we can't bring hope and fear with us to the end of our journey, is because the result is the absence of hope and fear. You can't accomplish the absence of hope and fear through hope and fear. The song ends with a versified colophon, begins, "This was written for karma nyendrak." Now, with each of these songs, almost all of them identify by name the person or persons for whom they were written. This serves two purposes. The first is to acknowledge the person, so it makes it a personal communication. But the second is that it also points out that each of these songs are personal advice. Now, in that sense, Rinpoche said, it's a little bit like cognitive therapy. I am not equating the Dharma instruction with any form of therapy, he said. But there is an analogy, which is that a skilled cognitive therapist will be able to, through diagnosis, through conversation, and through a careful examination of their client, will be able to come up with the right advice for that person, to enable that person to gain the skills they need to overcome whatever their particular cognitive problems are. In the same way, or in an analogous way, what this type of advice here is giving personal guidance on the mind. Now, there is a difference in purpose. In the case of therapy, it is the attempt to alleviate what we would regard as acute or long-term suffering in this life. Here, this is guidance on how to recognize the mind's nature and alleviate sufferings that have gone on far longer and could potentially go on far longer. But the point is that the advice has to be tailored to the individual, and therefore it is personal and individual. So the colophon ends, "This was written for Karma Nyendrak in a cabin at Lion Fortress by Terchen Barway Dorje. May ultimate Mahamudra be accomplished."
Penna Dorje Changnom Sunday Garansu Pengal Jambar Zambo de Yabe Dorje Changnom Sunday Nala Nom Dong Sugar Sombaji Jian Mai Jian Chawala Manga Roban Chava Gomkinla Honda Yeme double change laws in some advance. Tay and do capsula Tang around so get Chu Yang and Wote Kang Tondalon Young York Senna Honda Yeme to Dayo. And then that on that note, then it is that Kona Kepa Savio Senayanda, Chupa Gona Yamne Zovio Senayanda, Karin Nangio Senaya Ronte, Tatu Getawa Tusanda Wote, Tenny Honda. Yemne bato to the Dayo. Then that number Sanje Pa Sanje Jason Yone. Tatu lana mepukoma want to big lam like in that may you tell it. Tell loss you may you amaris. That under Ganantanda Wajina, Conde Yemi dog yarn, intending Koala and Tamabanda won't come the order. They in the capsula, Dan Cham de at the Ghana, then in Chamba de Senna, Ransem Chukum Wote. Masimbal ten cham de wari. Temato jegge, Rala yonte mene cham de wanda tende maris. Te indu capsulata, Naran toge, nom toge ngote. Ten pena tanda pengar jambar zambu somata dala. Nom toge ngote, ten church go ready. Number top was singing the cheta and get that. Nelo sem nelo dawo tela ta chu ko yamba yam tene chu kora rangi ge tong ba yonde ko ne yamba ha mago wala tene kande chen thor song wala sena te tabu ge nam to ge ngo tela nga singe tel ta song nga se de ta nga te pe ma se be ke chambo nga te sa chimbo nga na malo shen malo zangbo ja tamba gewa go nyamba tong tamba de ta go tende chegen do che tela tene tang ko an ta me bala cham so wa re ma do chege tan nom to ngo chue ji ko te tan ro wa re to ge sem chin nong ke ka cha ko sem yin tham che te ge sem byu la me ba san ne ma re te ta chue ji ko de yo wa re chokoya rangi jula yoris. Choko yobatam the mati, Jam Mayan Jam the Chagi yoris. The mount Tata Tusum the Namdo Chagi yori, Zamba Namdo Chagi yori, Nimba Namdo Chagi yori, Gangat Chagi yori. Take it Sawa Dawa the Khan, Senata, Loncho Zoku, Tenate, and answer the yoris. Loncho Zoku, Jim Machi Pagi. Pena tenete, pena longo nipa ngadin sen teta buke tenete ngaranso ke jula yobade yobade o teta buke tenete la teni zangbo ta nyemba ta ya da dog da teni kora namto namba na sopa chi chando yore teni teta buke ngaranso ke jula yore Manga Roban Chabe Gomchin Song the Candidate and the Tabu Zanging Nomton Hasobate one the Mandova Chene Tanji Kon the Shubata Dola Nom Dog Ngo Samaka Yembate Zambuk Dushi Masonga Nomto Ngo Sama Nembek Dushi Masonga Nomto Ngo Sama Kade Yembate taking Gole Yat to Patella Manga Roban Chava Secretary. Non to teni chok balap ta dula manga pa robal cha yungri kona dem tata tusum cha gari tanda kona shari jimba ga jimba ma pa na cha ju yimba ta pe na chok kona lap ta bu la ta kona ro de yori ten ro de du kapsla te ta bu shari yuma te rang ke kare shawa soma te ke ngol pa ma chi pa le ya to be ge gomchen te la Tan tato la kowa sene tene kyunji rangi kyunji sodo la pa kapa mepa tang. Nyangin lan dewa sene yontenji rangi ji sodupa mepa. Tan konde nika te nyamba nyido topa te tabu ki tene kora rangi yu la yunga sho sene tene manam tende chi chongdo wa. Te yendu kapsala ta ngaran soge tato ge semge togya sene na yarong. Tato yonten yonsu zoba tamjege ndebu ngondi kyurbege ta zawa sena yarong. Tato sanje tamjege tene chetan zebai kendo simye tamje la pende lana meba te topeke ton tamba chanjo senge nelo ndawu sena yarong te ta te tawo che to topa yina ta tiki yonten tamje te rana yong topa che yong topa yor. You lame ke nana tenle tongmin rodong de sen song de was ta ten na dabu ti yong to yo.
For example, in the lineage supplication that we recite at the beginning of teaching sessions, Bengo Jumbo Zongpo, who wrote it, wrote, "The nature of thoughts is Dharmakaya. Nothing whatsoever, it can arise as anything. For that meditator for whom it arises as unceasing play, or to that meditator, grant your blessing that samsara and nirvana be realized to be inseparable. We practice Dharma in order to realize the inseparability of samsara and nirvana. While we talk about samsara is this and nirvana is that, our purpose in having the ideas samsara and nirvana, our purpose in practicing Dharma is to realize their inseparability. We are not trying to realize the difference between them. We are trying to realize their inseparability. And any scholar of Mahayana Buddhism, any Siddha, would agree with this. That is our goal. And really, it is our only goal. We wander in endless samsara because we have not recognized the inseparability of samsara and nirvana. We wander in endless samsara because we have not recognized that the nature of our mind, the nature of anyone's mind, is the Dharmakaya. The cause of our wandering in samsara is not that we lack this nature. It is only that we have not seen it as it is. Our mind's nature is, on the one hand, emptiness. Empty of being anything whatsoever. But at the same time, it is also perfect endowment. The mind in and of itself has or possesses absolutely every possible virtue, wisdom, power, to a degree that is truly infinite. Our problem is very simple. Not recognizing this, we seek to replace that recognition with the concept I or me. We have replaced, or constantly seek to replace, recognition with the idea, concept, I or me. But the whole time, all beings of the 6 states have the same Dharmakaya as the nature of their minds. Now, when it said nothing whatsoever, it can arise as anything, that means that because your mind in and of itself is nothing whatsoever, it has no limitations. It can arise as anything. So it is because your mind is perfectly empty that it is perfectly infinite in its potential variety. So, in fact, not only is the Dharmakaya the nature of our mind, but the display of our mind is the activity of the Sambhogakaya. Because nothing whatsoever can arise as anything. And we experience the activity of the Sambhogakaya as this unceasing, incredible variety of experiences. To experience that as it is, as an unceasing play, means to be present in the present moment. How do you experience the unceasing display of your mind's thoughts as an unceasing play? With a mind of freshness. A mind of freshness is simply present in the present moment of experience, without prejudice, without conceptualizing, without attempting to prolong the past or introduce the future. When your mind rests in that way, then you experience the thoughts that constitute the shape or form or aspect of the mind as no more significant than waves arising on the surface of the ocean. Waves are not made of anything other than ocean water. In the same way, the stuff of thoughts, whether they are gentle thoughts or turbulent thoughts, the stuff of thoughts is just mind. So in that way, through freshness, we gain the recognition that thoughts and the nature of thoughts and the nature of mind are not two different things. That is the non-duality of samsara and nirvana. Thoughts are samsara, their nature is nirvana. This is our final goal. This is what we seek to realize. And this is the true source of non-conceptual activity for the benefit of others, what is taught in the Uttara Tantra Shastra and elsewhere as the activity that ensues upon the achievement of Buddhahood. That non-conceptual activity is possible because nothing whatsoever it yet arises as anything. Inashana.
Lato.
So we'll conclude for this morning with the dedication.
Suna Yeshe Lezon Ve Tamba Geni Tobar Yoy Sanjoy Sene Rinpoche Maji Banai Jijer Jiba Nyamba Meba Da Koni Konda Gawar Yoy Semje Damje Dedai Dinjer Je Ngindoy Damje Dade Dombar Shanje Zambai Ganda Zayob Deda Malanda Bayo Sanje Rejen Zunze Dambe Garaj Aragad Yared Danda Lemba Yesabje Mezon Reve Sangai Jese Zodar Jabe Rayi
Thank you. Thank you.